Look who's joining us once again here on his Wednesday spot on the Rich Eisen Show. Kind enough to stop by again from Fox Sports and The Athletic. Bruce Feldman, good to see you, sir.
Good morning.
Where are you going this week?
Austin, Texas. We got UT hosting K-State. Should be a good game. No Quinn Ewers. We don't expect this weekend. Malik Murphy will start again. So K-State's played well.
When are we going to see Arch Manning? Why haven't we seen him yet? What do you think?
I don't think he's ready.
What's the plan for him?
My guess is they will reevaluate in the spring where he's at. Question is, does Quinn Ewers leave? Because he could leave and jump in this deep quarterback class. And then it's like, will Malik Murphy, who they know has talent but hasn't played a lot, he didn't play a lot in high school, will he be able to show enough? I think that's the quarterback battle next spring if Ewers leaves.
And I'll just say, too, I mean, the Manning family has a history of paying attention to their family members and what their standing is or where they're going. This is fine. They're cool with just this kid sitting maybe even 2 years that Ewers being there and he's not playing.
I think they had to know that situation going in.
Really?
I mean, I don't think it was a surprise. Like Quinn Ewers was considered by a lot of people in the recruiting one of the highest rated.
Not this year, but another year after that.
Well, did they think Ewers was going to bounce after 1 year? They knew Caleb and Drake May were probably going to be at the top of this draft.
So Arch will just not get drafted for another 3 years after that, or he'll just play, or he'll be one and done in Texas.
I think the question is if you're them and they clearly bought into Steve Sarkisian as the quarterback developer in that system, do you just jump because you are getting itchy to get on the field? You know, like what are the better alternatives? I think what would be interesting here is obviously with the portal, you can make a move. Question is, you know, he's probably going to be unproven as a college player if he were to. And again, I've heard nothing that says he's looking to bolt if he's not the guy in 2024 when they make the move to the SEC.
We've got Bruce Feldman here from Fox Sports and The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show, back at the Rich Eisen Show desk, furnished by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger is the right product for you. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Your 2 cents on the first college football playoff rankings are what?
Ohio State is number 1. That may surprise some people who go, I don't think they're the best team in the country. They have the best resume. They went to Notre Dame, beat that team. That's a good Notre Dame team. They beat Penn State. That's a top 10 team. And then even last weekend, they went to Wisconsin and beat them by 2 touchdowns. I get it. It's not a great Wisconsin team, but that's still a 5-3 Wisconsin team. If you look at Georgia, the next team there, Georgia's best win is against a 3-loss Florida team that all 3 of their losses have been double digits. And Florida squeaked by South Carolina. Also, Georgia had its hands full with South Carolina. South Carolina is 2-6. So if you ask me head to head, who I think is better, I think Georgia would win the game. But at this point, we got to go on resume at least, and then all this stuff is going to sort itself out as we get further into it.
Of course, you know, and Michigan has not
played anybody yet.
Right. That's the general sense of things. There was a quote I saw from Boo Corrigan about how Michigan's off the field scenario and situation and Connor Stalions and sign stealing and all of that didn't play into the ranking at all, saying we really see it as an NCAA issue and not a CFP issue. So what do you make of a statement like that?
I'm not surprised. I don't think the CFP committee wants to wade in and be the jury on that. I think they would much rather have either the Big Ten, which has the leeway to do it, or the NCAA do something. If they don't, I don't think the CFP, now there may be somebody on the committee who sits there and goes, you know, in my head, I'm looking at it going, they've had an unfair advantage. Now, the flip side of that is when they play Penn State in 2 weeks, next week, and when they play, you know, Thanksgiving weekend against Ohio State, those teams are going to come in, you would think, either wristbanded up or completely aware of, all right, they're not getting our stuff. We're going to change whatever, make adjustments. Whatever's going to happen in that game is going to happen. And you would think that it won't bear out. I mean, the irony in this is that all the teams they've played, now they've dominated everybody.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. But no one has been truly good on their schedule at this point. But all those teams, you would think they probably would not have needed to have any added intel for that.
And that's the whole frustrating element of it. Obviously, everything that I've been talking about with my Michigan friends and my fellow Wolverines and fellow alums, it's a wide range of emotion: disappointment, embarrassment, frustration. Like, everybody has a set of eyes. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah came on this program, one of the most respected people that I know in our community that straddles the line of analysis and scouting and everything like that. He's like, sign stealing had nothing to do with Aiden Hutchinson beating the crap out of the tackle that was across from him a couple of years ago, and that they're dominating in the trenches and things like that, which is why, like, why the hell was this guy, Connor Stalions, free to do what he was doing? That's the ultimate question here that I have, and I know you've just done a whole survey with.
We talked to myself and Max Olson, my colleague at The Athletic. We talked to 50 college coaches, many head coaches, but from every conference in major college football.
Mm-hmm. And how long did this take?
This was a pretty much around the clock for the last week.
Okay,
this was put everything else on the back burner. We're getting this done this week, and so we started it early last week
on The Athletic.
Yes, sir. And we wanted to really get into context. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not a big deal, 5 being very serious, rate it. How serious do you think this is? Only 2 of the 50 coaches that we spoke to felt like it was under a 3. Most of them felt like it was very serious. Then it was from 2021 on, how much, if at all, credit does this take away from what Michigan did? Obviously, Michigan was 2-4 in the pandemic year, and they didn't even play Ohio State, right? And then they go from that to they've just dominated the conference. Now, obviously, I agree. I did DJ and Bucky's podcast a week ago, and both were in alignment, and I respect those guys greatly. By the same token, we talked to a lot of college football coaches. Does it affect Aiden Hutchinson? But it definitely could affect. You have a shot play you have lined up. You know exactly when to do it. You have pressures that you're going to, know where to bring it from. Mm-hmm. All sorts of things. These are coaches who some are in the league, some are not, but they're all high-level coaches to know. Because we had asked them at one point, how many points do you think a game this could be worth if it's a real operation? Some said as many as 21. I mean, that's a big number. Like, I don't care what the college football player is. If you ask like a handicapper, that no player is worth 21 points in college football. And this was fascinating to see. The biggest issue, and it goes back to your question, was, so Connor Stalions, a Naval Academy grad, lifelong Michigan fan, desperately aspiring to rise up in the coaching ranks.
With a 600-page Michigan manifesto or something like that?
That's the report.
Yes.
He took I know this part from our own reporting, took great pride in his reputation as a signal stealer. Now, if he's doing it in game, just based off of the intel they maybe had from TV copy going in or anything like that, most schools have some operation or some person who's trying to do that. The part where you cross the big line is if you are going in person to do the scouting. Some of the people we talked to in the survey did say they have had instances where somebody from another school had come to their spring game, maybe filmed them. We've heard of stuff where people had spied on walkthroughs, a handful of this. We have not heard the degree of things that apparently Connor Stalions was doing.
Like holding a laminate with everybody's
so many
signs
things. There's
and
a
things
Central
like that,
Michigan
right?
thing, if that's him, looks really dubious.
What the hell, man?
But then the other part of it, where a bunch of coaches had issue with this, because one of the questions we asked is, is there any case for plausible deniability for Jim Harbaugh here? Now, first of all, the NCAA is not going to go on that because the NCAA says you were responsible for everybody who works for you. So
this is a moot point when it comes to potential violations and and punishments for it.
Yeah, because other coaches have been dinged for what their underlings do and saying you didn't know you should have known.
Right.
But the part so a couple of coaches I talked to, and these are head coaches in this case, were like, I don't know everything that goes on in my building. And one of them was a Sun Belt coach. Their building is quite honestly a lot smaller than Michigan, a lot less people. The thing people have called out is, why is this guy who has worked in the recruiting department, no headset, worked in the recruiting department, why is he next to Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, while the game is going on, talking to him in the middle of this? That looks suspicious. Why is he next to Jim Harbaugh? I've had head coaches go, there's no way a guy like that is going to be in my space while a game is going on. It strains, credibility beyond belief to them, that those things look really dubious. And if Jim didn't know, it's like, okay, how are you so sure? Why are we leaning everything on this guy that he is so prominent? I talked to another coach who in the Big Ten who was like, we heard they had this Navy SEAL guy who was like, on profile, you could say, okay, here's a guy who maybe could have a next level ability to do this.
Sure.
Yeah, and I talked to people who've been at Michigan who said he was really good. He had an uncanny knack for this. Well, maybe this is why. Did anybody wonder why?
Well, it's obvious that it's not uncanny. It's it's what's the word for it? It's
dubious.
It's hammy. It's like I was saying before. It's like one of my kids who eats something he shouldn't, and then leaves the cabinet door open, and crumbs trail to his room. I mean, it's hand-handed.
Yeah,
like
it
actually
is.
It's done.
Incredibly sloppy. I had.
What is he doing? And
I mentioned this on our Big Noon show the other day. One of the coaches I talked to said they basically think they should get punished alone for being stupid about how they did this. They should not have gotten caught for years, except they basically.
But hold on a second. The problem with that is that means that Harbaugh was directing it. Now, what's the proof on that? Now, I understand you're saying it's strange credulity that this guy It could be. It could be just. Hey, guy's got a naval background. He's really good at this.
And you never wonder why is this guy so good at this?
I guess he was saying, I'm looking at the tape. I looked at the tape and I saw all this. You're looking at me like that too, and I understand that that's the way you're looking at me like that. And so, but we're finding the fault line on what needs to be proven and what doesn't need to be proven. That's what I'm saying here. And so, when are we going to hear anything about this?
The other thing is Jim Harbaugh. This doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Like Jim Harbaugh still has an NCAA investigation from recruiting violation from the COVID dead period that is on him. I think the other thing that is operating here is, are we giving him the benefit of the doubt on this? Now, we say we're not the NCAA.
Right.
We're not.
They're not gonna.
No, but I think ultimately it's as much on the Big Ten right now, because they're the ones who have the leeway to jump in ahead of time now.
And do what? Take away wins?
I don't know if it's take away wins. Here's what I would think. And this is something, like people are not 100% on this. Do you punish the team? And what did J.J. McCarthy have to do this? Now, the thing that I think more people buy in is Harbaugh needs to be disciplined for this. Does that mean Harbaugh gets suspended for the rest of the season while this goes on? If I was a Michigan fan, quite honestly, I would much rather have that played out than my team. Right. I don't think a postseason bowl ban, this is my own opinion from talking to a lot of people, seems like the optimum way to do it. Now, if they can, if there's an investigation going on and you find out that the coordinators, and again, the Jesse Minter stuff, the defensive coordinator, that does not look good from them, just the optics of it. That doesn't mean he's guilty of this.
Of course.
But again, this is a guy who's like, this wasn't a former head coach who happened to be on. This isn't like, hey, we got Cliff Kingsbury over here who's a decorated, long-time football mind here. We have a guy whose title is he works in the recruiting office.
Who? Connor Stalions.
Connor Stalions.
Yeah,
that's what he like.
Dude, I have no idea.
This smells really bad for Michigan. That doesn't mean Jim Harbaugh.
That's what I'm saying. It smells bad for Michigan, and I understand it looks bad when you see him.
What do you think they should do?
What do I think they should do?
Think?
I don't know what's happening, though. I don't know, and you don't know completely what's happening.
No, I don't know.
You have spoken to 50 coaches who believe they know. Nobody knows. I need to see an actual investigation.
But that's what's going on
and
now.
Announced, and that's what I need to see.
So the question
here's what I also need to see.
Michigan has suspended Connor Stalions already.
I don't want to see him again. Honestly, I don't want to see him ever again. I don't know why he was within 100 million miles of Schembechler Hall. Honestly.
If Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, said, hey, right now, we're going to suspend Jim Harbaugh for the remainder of the season pending this investigation, what would you think of that?
I would have a problem with that.
Why? Because you're suspending Connor Stalions and he's supposed to be responsible.
Correct, because he's the one that's Venmoing people that you have the receipts for, and he's the one that apparently folks are like, I'm a Division III coach. I actually got money to sit at a Nebraska game or whatever. We don't know what Jim has done. And until we know what Jim has done, we're not suspending him in advance. Like that's.
Well, you're suspending this guy, and Jim's responsible for that guy. I'm saying.
Okay. So let's just put it this way: would you agree that if Michigan runs the table and eviscerates everybody in the same way that they'd eviscerate everyone else with Connor Stalions ripped out root and branch, there's no asterisk to it?
I don't know if I would go that far because I don't know what they, Rich. I don't know exactly what they're on the hook for right now. I wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying. So you're going to suspend Harbaugh without knowing anyone's on the hook.
The reason why I'd say it might be a more viable scenario is because you already have Jim under investigation for something else. He
served 3 years, 3 games for it.
That's not what the NCAA was going to say. And by the way, like that is a significant thing.
All right, let me push back here too. NCAA, first of all. Okay. Secondly,
I'm saying the Big Ten here.
Okay, Big Ten's different. Secondly, who's doing the reporting on this independent firm that knocks on the NCAA door and says, "Oh, guess what we found? Some lunatic that's running around with tickets, and cell phone cameras." Who's that person? Who's that entity?
That's a great question.
That is a great question. That's what I'd like to. But
that doesn't absolve.
It doesn't absolve. It doesn't absolve.
That's a little whataboutism stuff going on, though.
It's not whataboutism. I'm not saying that, but you don't think it's a key ingredient to all this to find out what's going on?
I think it's a piece of it, okay. But I also don't think...
It doesn't absolve anything. Yeah. Understand what I'm saying. It doesn't absolve anything, but it's kind of an interesting
it's curious.
question.
It is very
here.
curious. And look, I'll be honest.
Have you ever heard of that, first of all? So an independent firm knocking on the door of the NCAA, and nobody in the media is asking, who hired the independent firm?
People, because I know before, and I'm trying to think who had that. It was
I'm not seeing a piece on that. I'm seeing where Connor Stalions bought his tickets.
That is.
I'm seeing him dressed like a clown on the sideline of Central Michigan.
This has turned into a feeding frenzy on because I know my colleagues at the Athletic spent a bunch of time chasing that.
Yes.
And the Washington Post was able to get at it before we could get it in the print.
They got it that's how the NCAA found out about it. But I read that Washington Post piece over and over and over again. Not even a split second was it even a line about we have not determined who's hired. It was just a firm.
Rich, because they're not as sloppy as Connor Stalions and Stalions was in this.
Which means what? They don't have it, so they don't even put in a line.
People are going to blast it out because we don't. There people have theories because I know I've been on these same Slack exchanges with my colleagues about as we've tried to report on this. Mm-hmm. You can't just push everything out there to that degree. But I think some of this is because they were so brazen and sloppy.
Who's they?
They is Michigan because it's Connor Stalions who works there. I mean, it'd be different if he didn't, but he did, and he was prominent last year for a recruiting analyst.
Yeah, please. I totally understand what you're saying.
Like,
I get what you're saying, and that's why it's a timely situation. Certainly, if you're putting out there as a supposition, Bruce Feldman, that Harbaugh should be suspended for the rest of the year. Michigan should go on this magical run with the interim head coaches or whomever, right?
That's worked in the basketball program before,
man,
correct?
Steve Fisher, hung a banner. I get it. I understand it. But what are you hearing? Is Michigan going to give him a contract? You hearing that?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that that's in the works. That would honestly surprise me because Jim Harbaugh there's a couple of things that are going on here. Jim Harbaugh did dances with the NFL before. Now he's going to have, and look, he told me this was, like in the summer, I feel like I have 20 guys who are going to get drafted this year.
By the way, he's not wrong.
He might not be wrong. No, but all those guys are going to move on.
Right.
Like whatever happens this year, if they win the national title, if they go to the playoff, whatever, it's a borderline great team. We're going to find out.
Right.
But they're probably not going to be anywhere near as good next year. You're still got the NCAA on you from the COVID dead period sanctions. Who knows how this thing is going to play out? I just sit there and go, if you're Jim Harbaugh and you can get to the NFL, right? Now, we heard he bombed the interview with the Vikings 2 years ago, and it didn't work out with the Broncos. But he was, he's a proven, unlike almost every guy who came from college football, whether it's Urban Meyer or Matt Rule, he was wildly successful as an NFL head coach.
Yes, sir. Only guy who's coaching the college football playoff game and the Super Bowl.
So he's like, to me, it's like, whether he ends up, I know you talked about Lou Anarumo being the next guy at the Raiders. I don't know. There's going to be a bunch of jobs that I suspect will come open or might come open.
Sure.
That Jim Harbaugh has some ties to already.
And he can have his personnel guy inserted right away. Like, for sure. Like whatever plan he was placing in front of other NFL owners.
I don't get how Michigan would set up and go, okay, we've had all this drama with Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, we know he's a really good college coach, but we're gonna roll through with this with the NCAA and just say, hey, we're good with all this. To me, it doesn't make that much sense from both sides of this. It really doesn't. It's like Jim Harbaugh's been there a long time. Jim Harbaugh never stayed anywhere a long time in coaching. He's got the NCAA all over Michigan, which they absolutely are. So but
if the NCAA all over Michigan is not a college football playoff problem, and Michigan goes on a run and eviscerates every opponent without they've been on notice.
The NCAA's not going away by the end of this, by the way.
Great.
It took them 6 years to get on Kansas, and this is going to stay. We still got the COVID thing is not going away.
But then would it go away if Harbaugh's coach of the Raiders?
It probably would.
Really?
Because he's gone.
So then it's a personal thing. It's not an institutional control thing.
He's the one in charge.
No, seriously. No. I'm just, No, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. You're saying.
No, they are. I'm looking at them.
No. Hold on a second. You gave me a look. You and I have done this long enough where I know the Bruce Feldman look. You gave me a look like when I said, so if he goes, everything else, institutional control, the institution, we're cool with it. But if he goes, then forget what cheeseburger? What cheeseburger? What Connor Stalions ticket buying program? No, I'm serious. If that's is that what you're saying?
Don't ask. I'll be the last person who's going to stand here and defend the NCAA. Okay, so I don't, but
if you do that, then I understand.
I'm not. No, I'm not defending the NCAA. I'm just telling you how the NCAA's track record is, and I think if Jim Harbaugh's, it's like, look, this is not a apt comparison. But like Tennessee couldn't throw Jeremy Pruitt under the bus harder to the point of like
don't hurt him. I got it.
Yeah, and I just think to them Jim Harbaugh is much more of a case than Michigan would be. It's not saying Michigan wouldn't get anything
unless he didn't know. And you're saying how could he not know? And if he didn't know or he didn't care to know, those are two different things. Or he had nothing to do with it. And we don't know. The
problem for Jim Harbaugh is it doesn't work that way in the NCAA.
Understood.
There's bylaws that are put in that even if there is, you are completely oblivious to what Connor Stalions was doing.
Right.
Like my hunch, and I don't know this, and none of us know this for sure, is he did not know the scope of what Connor Stalions was doing and how he was doing.
I can't believe Connor Stalions was doing everything that he was doing that he's alleged to have done.
It's very, this will be a term that will resonate with you.
Which is?
It's very Galooly-like.
You're not wrong. Yeah. Which is the embarrassment part of that anything Jeff Galooly-like would be related to the Michigan football program. That's the embarrassing part about it.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure you guys are like...
But I want to know, honestly, like every day I come on the microphone and I speak from the heart and I speak from the gut. I need information, and we need it fast. Certainly if asterisks are going to be applied.
The NCAA doesn't operate fast, and you don't want...
Well, then the Big Ten. You're saying the Big Ten acts first.
That's why I think that's why I think the Big Ten may have a more realistic chance to say, look, you suspended a guy who works for you immediately. These are the circumstances. You've already had Jim sit out games. If I was a Michigan fan, if I was you, I'd be like, you know what? I'd much rather have you suspend Jim Harbaugh than do something to the team.
Well, guess what? I'd rather win the Natty and show everybody that we can win the Natty with everything that Connor Stalions. Excuse me.
Forever.
No. Connor Stalions is gone. He's gone.
Who cares? All of his information doesn't just disappear. Well, and these guys don't wave the Men in Black thing, so they forget about it.
Hold on a second. Excuse me, Tommy Lee Jones. Excuse me. No.
I mean, I'm right.
But all of these teams wristbanding up. You don't think Ohio State's worked on a whole different sign situation?
Oh, I'm sure they have. Look,
exactly. They got 6 weeks in advance.
TCU tried to
remedy it.
By the way,
where the hell were the signs there? Connor Stalions, great job, man. So all I'm saying is, it's very convenient for people to say, well, they had everybody's signs, except TCU's. Well, they had everybody's signs. I mean, honestly, when Kirby Smart said what he said, I didn't see any indication of sign stealing because they beat the crap out of Michigan. That's why. So all I'm saying, win the Natty, go on a run. We still don't know what Jim knew or not. Prove it. Prove it to me. See it. I want it. I want that information before I sit here and go, absolutely, he should be suspended. I think they rip it out. Root and branch, they've done it. Go rip everybody a new one, win the Natty, and then we'll deal with it then.
I have a question for you. Any thought in your head, I might get fired? Rich is so worked up, he made you say,
this is Mike. No, we speak the same Northeast language. This is the way I talk.
It was a
pleasure having you, Bruce.
No, stop.
I'm kidding.
Okay, very good.
He knows I'm right.
No, I just know that, I don't know every podcast you go on. Is that a lack of institutional control for me? You just don't tell me. Basically, he's the Connor Stalions of the Rich Eisen Show, not me. Thanks for coming on. This is what we call a real conversation, wouldn't you say? Okay. This guy over there. Enjoy, what is it, Texas, you said, Kansas State.
Texas, K-State.
Okay, very good.
We're there.
Very good. Enjoy it. We'll see you down the road. That's
next week, Penn State, Michigan.
That's right. I'll be in Germany. I'll be in Germany. Because I'm scouting for Michigan's Bundesliga program. Love it. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.